Mesh from Piximperfect. How you doing? I hope you're having a fantastic day, and if not, know that you can turn it around anytime you want, and I trust that you will. Well, in this video, I'm going to share with you the most realistic way to place a design on any shirt or any surface for that matter. And here's a clue, it's not going to be blend if. There's a flaw with blend if, and we're going to discuss this in this video. This is something else. It's also based on the brightness and the darkness value, but not blend if. It's going to be much better. So without any further ado, let's get started. I'm excited to share this with you. Back at the magical world of Photoshop, and if you want to go ahead and download any of the photos and follow along, you know what to do. Check the links in the description. So our happy subject today is wearing a relatively darker t-shirt. If she was wearing a white t-shirt, it would have been way easier. We could just place the design and change the blend mode to multiply. But in this case, it's a little more complicated. And this is a great example to learn how to place your designs on any kind of surface with any kind of color. So here we have our design in Adobe Illustrator format. No worries, you can paste Illustrator format right here. It can be a PNG, it can be a Photoshop document, any format will do. So you can just simply drag it and drop it right over your canvas. Now, if it's made in Adobe Illustrator, if it's an AI file, this will show up. Just choose page and crop to bounding box and hit OK. And your design is right there. The next step simply is transforming and molding the design according to the folds of the t-shirt. And you can use any method that you like. You can use warp, you can use liquify. So first of all, let's make it smaller. And she is a bit tilted, right? She's standing in style. So something to learn. Anyway, so tilt the design slightly and let's make it smaller as well, just like this. And you can place it however you want. This seems to be about right. Now, since there are not many folds in her t-shirt, we don't have to do much. Just a little will do. So let's go to filter and then liquify. Before you do anything, make sure this is a smart object. Now, since we placed it, it is usually a smart object. If it's not, you can first check by the symbol. This symbol simply means it is a smart object. And if it isn't, you can go to filter and then convert for smart filters. Right now, it's already there. So that is grayed out. So let's go to filter and then liquify. Now we need to see through the design to look at the folds of the shirt. To do that, scroll down on the right hand side and make sure you have checked show backdrop. And we want to see the background layer, right? And we want to see the background layer behind the design. And of course, you can increase or decrease the opacity of the design. So now we can zoom in and mold it according to the folds of the t-shirt. Now there are not many folds here. We can see some slight folds, so we can push it in a little bit. See, we are bending the horn accordingly so that it's a little noticeable. Not much folds here. Let's scroll down. And in here, if you just decrease the opacity, there are some hard folds. And this is what we need to watch out for. So let's first of all decrease the opacity all the way to the left to see what the folds are like, and then increase the opacity. And according to the fold, let's tuck inside the excess. Alrighty, I think that's pretty much enough. Now, if this was a little more folded, we might have to put in some more work. Now, some of you are going, Unmesh, why the hell are you not using displacement maps or warp for that matter? Well, let's say I like spicy food. There are some of my friends who just cannot handle spicy food. Does that mean that they're not my friends? Actually, some of my closest friends cannot handle spicy food. So when it comes to food and flavors, there's no right or wrong. There's no chocolate is better than vanilla. For some people, vanilla is better. So similarly with Photoshop, there's no technique which is right or wrong. Whatever works for you, you should go above and beyond and use that. And even if it's against me, if it works for you, please use that. Now, in this case, there are not a lot of folds, and liquify gives me more control over just bending shapes here and there. Warp also gives you more control, and if you like warp, use it. Now, when it comes to displacement maps, it might not be accurate all the time. And in my opinion, I think displacement map is best for surfaces which have tiny little textures that if you start doing with warp or liquify, you're gonna grow old doing that. Doing all those millions of texture pieces, it's just impossible. In those cases, displacement map is the best. In my opinion, again, if you want to use anything else, please do. All right, once you're happy with this, just hit OK. Now tell me one thing, my friend. When you print this design on a t-shirt like this, do you really think it's going to be just as sharp as this one? Not at all a possibility. So we need to blur it a little bit to make it more realistic. So how do we blur it? You know this. Let's go to filter, blur, and then Gaussian blur. Now we don't need to blur so much. Of course, not 200 pixels, about less than 1. So let's zoom in. And look at the other textures and just compare how blurred do you think the design can get. So let's decrease it all the way to the